Welcome back to Tiny Blue Games. My name, of course, is Csaw or Chris, and today we're talking about Guild Wars 2 in 2020. How's it going, everyone? Hopefully you are having a great day. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about Guild Wars 2 and some recent changes that has come to the game. I did make a video fairly recently, and I'm sure I'll link a card somewhere around here, about what I think about Guild Wars 2 in 2020. The video itself was a bit more negative than positive, mostly because I think they've had a fairly disappointing 2019 because the game has had such an incredible sort of past 3 years before that. Now, I maintain to this day that the game is one of the best value MMORPGs you can get for the amount of money you have to spend on it. There's a ton of content for people to play, especially for casual players who just hop into a game every so often and don't want to be focused on always grinding gear. It is the perfect game for those type of players. So with that said, what has happened to the game that I'm so excited about? They finally added 2v2 ranked matches, which is super exciting. And I know for people who have been in the Guild Wars 2 PvP scene for quite some time, you'll know that they've actually had 2v2 maps for quite a while. They've simply just been in the custom game area, so you could play with, some friends or a very dedicated small group of, community members, but it wasn't something that the large-scale community would play, just because it's not something that you're queuing into, it's not something that you're going through the ranking system for, you're not getting the same amount of rewards for the games. Well, all of this has changed recently, and as you can see in the background here, we're doing some 2v2 gameplay. We have a few different maps to choose from, which is great. I queued in as a solo player in these, and we get paired with a random person who sometimes appreciated how good I could be, but oftentimes just saw how terrible I was at the game's PvP. To be fair, I haven't done PvP in Guild Wars 2 in quite some time, and above all, I think PvP, when you come back to an MMO, takes a little bit of time to kind of dust off. You can go back into some dungeons and stuff and take things a little bit slower, but whenever it's PvP, people jump on that weakness, on that slowness. So while you're sitting there struggling to remember which skill is entirely important to your class, you're pretty much dead. It did go pretty well. We had a few wins, we had a few losses. What you're seeing in the background here is me actually playing my placement rounds, because the 2v2 games are in a mini season, which is also very cool. And each season in Guild Wars 2, if you haven't been around for a little bit, sort of starts with a placement round where you'll do a bunch of games, and depending on how many wins or losses, you'll be placed into a certain tier or rank, very similarly to how the Overwatch ranking system works, where you do kind of your placement rounds at the start. Things are kind of changing in terms of the actual way that matches are done in PvP as well, specifically with automated tournaments. We have a Swiss tournament coming. This is just kind of a different style of doing the matchups, where instead of doing, I believe it was single elimination before, and you would just be out if you lost. Now you kind of place against different teams, and it'll go on a little bit longer, but it'll sort of shift everyone around to have the less good teams going against the less good teams, and the better teams eventually going against the better teams. So it kind of allows people to have more chance in the game, like more tries to do better, but it does sort of sort out those two different types a lot quicker as well, instead of you just being eliminated. For instance, if there's a very favored team that is quite good at PvP, and they have something, make a huge mistake and are just out right away without facing against their rivals at the end, which maybe the viewers of a tournament expect, right? So it should ultimately help the engagement with the tournaments as well, but we'll see how they work. I don't have as much experience with that side of things as I do with the 2v2 gameplay. In terms of the 2v2 gameplay, the reason I was so excited for it is I think Guild Wars 2's PvP is a very nice mix of action combat and tab targeting combat, where things feel quite good. But the time PvP gets a little bit messy is when there's too many people, too many telegraphs, and it's kind of impossible to see what's going on. I mean, we've all experienced that in World v. World for sure, and to a degree, it also kind of happens sometimes in 5v5. Now, the nice thing about 2v2 is it rarely happens in 2v2. You can usually understand what's happening. You can usually see the enemy's telegraphs on the ground. You can usually see the allies healing, circles or whatever it might be. So it really allows for the gameplay to feel a lot more smooth and a lot more obvious. You understand what's happening the whole time. Because I think ultimately that's one of the most frustrating things that can happen in PvP is when you die and you're like, how did I die? And you have to go through kind of the kill sheet and see that you were hit with, a billion burn or something like that, which still can happen in the 2v2s, but it's a lot easier once you see, oh, this person's doing burns to me, I should probably look out for that. Because 2v2s are kind of a best out of 3 system, so you do have that chance to adapt and shift the way you play your game. Typically when it goes, with a random person, the biggest strategy that will kind of shift is like who we're targeting first, right? That's one of the big ones. So it's worked out really well. I've been very happy with what the game has to offer. There are a few maps already for arenas. I believe we have at least 3, there might be more. I played 3, so we're gonna go with 3 for sure. But it's a really easy thing for developers to add. We've seen this with World of Warcraft for quite some time. It'll take quite a while for a new battleground with a new actual sort of winning feature to come out, but arenas come out all the time that are sort of flavored around different areas of the world, different expansions. And that's something I think Guild Wars 2 will do quite well, because they can kind of lift these really beautiful areas from the core game and bring them and shrink them down into a nice arena-sized format, where it's more of an aesthetic thing than anything. The other thing to note is that they do have kind of a time limit to each round, where if the game goes on for too long, skills such as healing and stealth will be disabled, and a deadly thog will kind of come and close in on the circle. So it tries to eliminate people just being so bunkery that nothing ever happens, because if you've played Guild Wars 2, you'll know that there is quite the ability to build bunkers or high DPS characters as well. So you really have that variation that you can play. This kind of encourages more of a mix of the two, which is nice. It'll be interesting to see what kind of changes they make to the system as things go on. But I'm extremely happy that this has been added to the game. It's something I've been waiting for several years, because I just knew that the 2v2 gameplay would feel really good with the combat in Guild Wars 2, and I think this is exactly what PvP needs. We'll have to see how the rest of the community feels about it and where they go with it in the future, but this is certainly a huge step in the right direction for Guild Wars 2, and I'm very happy to share some more positive news, because I do feel like I came a little bit too negative at them in the past video, whereas a large of the issues I've had with them have been communication issues, and we've seen more and more developers in the last month have been coming back into certain roles, and more importantly sharing their plans for the future, which is great as well. But yeah guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. What are your thoughts on this new system for Guild Wars 2? I'd love to hear them in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.